Hi, I'm Kevin Soergel, owner of Soergel's Landscapes, Aquascapes, Hardscapes, and Floriscapes. Today we're going to talk a little bit about design. The most important part of any landscape project is to have a design. It's easier to plan first than it is to plan afterwards, and it's always much better and much more efficient to have a plan to follow than it is to just figure out your mistakes as you go along and try and make things fit together. More than just planning for the right plants in the right place, I think it's also important to plan for how you will use it, how you will view it, and enjoy your landscape. Okay, when I meet with someone for the first time, I try to get to know them. Before I start designing their yard, I try and get to know them and how they will use it. If you're doing this for yourself, it's still very important to ask yourself, what do I want? What do I like? What do I dislike? What's my favorite thing about vacation? Where do I like to go? Is it tropical? Is it Colorado? Is it beach? Whatever your styles are, think to that. But then also think about how you plan to use your yard, intended uses of patio spaces, entertainment areas. Do you like the fire pit or fireplace idea, outdoor kitchens? How will you entertain? Will it be, the two of you with wine, or will there be parties of 50 or 100 in your yard? How will kids enjoy your property? Playground uses, open ball fields, or private and secluded pathways to little garden vignettes. Small secluded gardens, a secret garden area, or a meditation section of your garden. How will water play into your yard? Do you want a little waterfall, the sound of bubbling water, a spitter type fountain, a pond with the interaction of fish and plants, water plants, terrestrial plants? Fish are an integral part to an ecosystem, but also a pet that can be enjoyed and a member of the family. In time, fish go from a wild animal to basically like a dog. They get happy and they wag when they see you. They get all excited to be fed. So fish are something that are essential to the ecosystem of a pond, whereas with a pondless waterfall, fish and plants are not so much necessary. We like to combine in most of our designs a pond and a stream and waterfall. So you have the life and the interaction of the fish and the plants, as well as the excitement and the vibrancy and the movement of water. Okay, so the next step is to start to measure the features of the property, and then we'll start to synthesize a plan. So the first step is to kind of walk the property and take measurements and plot the measurements onto a copy of the survey. That's this drawing. We'll start with a blank sheet that shows the property lines and the house. Usually the survey shows both of those features, sometimes also driveway and sidewalk. The more that your survey shows you, the more helpful it is. If you don't have a surveyor can do one for you. So what we're going to do now is measure to various walls, various slopes, the features of your property, the wet spots, the sunny spots, the spot where nothing grows, and the spot where things grow so much you can't control them. So we want to know all of those features, and then from that, combined with your wish list of I like this and I like that, we want to design the perfect yard and the perfect landscape for you. We don't want to just settle for what's in the budget this year. We want to design carte blanche, money is no object, design what you would have if you could have everything that you wanted as far as your yard is concerned. And then we can work towards that over many years, do a little bit at a time, but follow a plan that designs perfection for you. We're creating paradise here, not just settling for a small patio or a small waterfall or whatever is in the budget this year. So it's important to design and then reach for the design as opposed to just settling. The easiest way to measure is with a tape measure, but you can also pace. You can take a tape measure and figure out what your pace is. If you've got a 3-foot stride, 3, 6, 9, 12 as you walk. And you can walk the features in your yard. You already have the property corners, the property lines, and the house laid out, so you'll need to figure out where the driveway is, where whatever features you have in your yard, or whether you already have existing patios and planting beds and a couple of trees. Measure to them. But instead of just measuring on an angle, you want to measure at a right angle to something that you can see. Usually it's your house. The house is has nice sharp 90-degree corners, so you can measure out parallel to a corner and then go perpendicular over to the feature and then back in a triangulation and get an exact location for that feature, be it a tree or a shed or whatever. Take as accurate a measurements as possible, because when we're working on paper, we use this paper to not only come up with our ideas, but to budget, to calculate square footages and quantities of materials. Okay, so we start with the survey. We measure to our features. This is the next step. The features of the tree lines, the property, the planting beds, the sidewalk, where the stream, the shed, the playground, whatever features are already there, we measure to that. And then we can begin to design what do we want. Do we want to enlarge the deck? Do we want to put in a little stream and waterfall? Do we want to have some privacy plantings in the front? Do we want to clear out some space in the woods for additional play areas? And then we begin to synthesize the design. And I always like to design beginning with the people. Instead of designing the features or starting to say, I want this tree, this tree, this tree, this tree, I begin by saying, I want to have a patio here, I want to have a deck here, I want to have a path here. And design the people spaces first. And then you can fit in the water or the flower beds. And then you can put privacy plantings in the woods. And then you can put evergreens for privacy along the property lines, or plant shade perennials and rhododendrons and woodsy plants in the woods, or plant a sunny English garden, or a mossy Japanese garden. So before you start with all of the details, I like to design the space. First things first, design the spaces that we're going to use, the spaces that we're going to sit in and enjoy and walk on. Remember to consider always the views out of the house as well, views from different windows. And the main window that we'll always be looking out is the kitchen dining area. That's where the people gather the most and look out the window the most. And then secondarily would be the family room window views. And then thirdly would be bedroom views, master bedroom, master suite. And I like to design a couple of designs. There's same house, a couple of different options. It's only paper. Once you start digging holes and buying materials, it's money. But on paper, you can do this thought process. And now I also like to color the drawings so that they're more readable and more understandable. We have, pink flower gardens, blue water features, the stone patios, the wooden deck areas, the entry courtyards. Whatever the features are that you want to design, that's what we're going to put on the paper. And we'll do a couple of them, and then we'll look at the pluses and minuses, the pros and cons of each one, and then make decisions. If you start spending money building things, digging holes, tearing things up, cutting down trees, you can't go back. On paper, if I like this idea, but my wife likes this idea, we can compromise, or we can go back, or we can talk about these ideas on paper a lot easier than once we're starting to pay contractors or buy materials, buy lumber, buy bricks and stone. And most times there is a design fee if you have a professional come and help you do a design. And a lot of times they will, and I do, apply that towards the installation work if we get to do the job. A design is an investment. Okay, once we've selected all the features that we want, we may mix and match a little bit. We may take a little bit of the deck from drawing number 1 and the patio and front entry from drawing number 3. But once we have that finalized into a final, this is what we want design. We have everything drawn out, then we can begin to measure and take off for our patios and know how much stone we need to buy. For our courtyards, how much pavers and wall stone we need to buy. For our deck, how many square foot of each level. So the design then becomes the method for figuring out the contract and the pricing and the budgeting. Okay, from the design, and then the contract amounts, budgets, how many contractors you need. You can figure out if you're going to phase this and work towards it over years or finance it. Sometimes people will decide that I'm going to be paying for it for 5 years, but I don't want to be working on it for 5 years. We'll finance it at a 5-year, whatever, home equity loan or line of credit or whatever. Other times people really enjoy working on it, so we can figure out we're going to phase. Logically, in construction, the deepest you dig and the heaviest construction is what you would want to start with. So normally we would start with patios and ponds as phase 1, then phase 2 would probably be decks and wooden construction, bridges, fences, that sort of thing would be phase 2. Phase 3 would then become planting larger trees, evergreens, background plantings, and then phase 4 could be planting shrubs and then flower gardens and edge treatments for the edges of lawns, the edges of patios, that sort of thing. Sometimes the way to phase would be to do this area first, and then this area second, and then these areas third. That's another way to handle it. You may want to, instead of have an incomplete area for 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 years, maybe complete one area at a time. Maybe in 2 phases, do one area complete, and then do the second area in the 3rd or 4th year, and then do the final and the surrounding and the flowers in a final year, a final phase. Okay, that's the design process. This is the process that you should go through. If you're dealing with a professional landscape designer, it may take a month of meeting once a week. If you're doing this yourself, put the time into it to do it right. Don't just settle for mediocrity. Design perfection. I'm Kevin Soergel, owner of Soergel's Landscapes, Aquascapes, Hardscapes, and Floriscapes. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.